That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Kajillionaire, the third film from the singular Miranda July, which premiered at the 2020 Sundance Film Festival and will be available on digital on demand and some theaters September 25th, 2020, courtesy of Focus Features.
This director is known for sort of quirky, cerebral things.
I like how as we started, you were like, is this a first-time director? No, Miranda...
I did like this movie.
Miranda July won the top prize out of Sundance for her debut, which is Me and You and Everyone We Know, which is also part of the Criterion Collection now. And her second film was The Future in 2011, and I've seen both of those and enjoy both of those. It's also notable she's married to director Mike Mills, which I always forget about. Who
has done what?
Thumbsucker, Beginners, which Christopher Plummer won his Oscar for.
I have seen that.
20th Century Women.
Okay. Mm-hmm. The story is set in modern time, and it is about a family of three.
Thieving criminals.
Who are, it's mom, dad, and daughter. The daughter is played by Evan Rachel Wood. She's 26 years old in this story. And they are like scammers. Yeah. But like if you took like
very low grade grifters.
Low grade, but like almost like they seem homeless, and the kind of scams they pull are very very low yield. But we find their main scheme when we are introduced to them is they have a post office box, and they have calculated the exact time when the boxes are being filled, so the back of it is open. So when they open their post office box, they can see through it. And they have timed it so when the mail carrier is done filling it and leaves it open and leaves for lunch, they have an opportunity to go in there. And then Evan Rachel Wood's character, whose name is Old
Dolio Dyne.
Old Dolio Dyne. So Old Dolio will reach in and then like grab the surrounding parcels. So she does that daily. They steal the mail and then they see what's in it and try to figure out how they can make money off it. So the first time and the only time we see them do it, they find like a tie, a watch, some other things. They decide that they are going to go to the address of the watch that was being mailed back that had been lost, saying that they found it like outside, hoping to get a reward. So old Dolio goes to this house in Ladera Heights, a beautiful home. It's a black couple.
With the mother played by Patricia Belcher, who is this lovely character actress, and every time I see her, I think of a great moment in Heartbreakers. But it makes me happy to see her.
Yeah, she's lovely. So this couple, they're like obviously very appreciative that this young girl has returned the watch. She's dressed up in like a schoolgirl uniform. So they say like, oh my gosh, we recognize your uniform. Our daughter went to that school. They end up giving her a reward, but it's like a gift card for a massage. And the masseuse happens to be the daughter. There's a really funny scene associated with that. But important to know, they live in they have a weird housing situation. They stay in like an office space that's attached to what looks like a soap factory. It's called Bubbles Inc. And they only pay $500 a month for this office space that they sleep in. So it's not like intended for living.
No.
But they're allowed to stay there for so cheap because every day at like 5 p.m., bubbles like seep over into that part of the office, and they have to collect the bubbles before they hit the ground because the landlord is concerned that it might ruin the structure. But they're 3 months behind. So they need $1,500. And old Dolio comes up with a scheme because they've won like 3 round-trip tickets from some airline. So old Dolio decides that their scheme is going to be to take this trip, so go fly somewhere, fly right back with 3 pieces of luggage, and like they're going to pretend that they've been stolen. And with the 3 stolen pieces of luggage, they will receive the $1,500. So they do it, and while they're on the flight, mom and dad meet Gina Rodriguez's character. Melanie, who I think is the star of the show.
Yeah, you described it right after we finished. She's magical and
she's like magical and infectious. Like, it's very believable to me that these two weirdos would meet her and totally glom onto her. So that worked very well. But she tells them, and because she's so sort of lovely, that she says to them that she's a physician's assistant to an ophthalmologist. But as they become closer during this flight, they confide in her that actually they're scamming the airline for like money for lost baggage. And then she admits to them that she's really not a physician's assistant. She just works in like an eyewear boutique selling like bifocals to old people. So they do their little heist with the luggage, and old Dolio is told like, well, you might not get the money for 6 weeks, but they need it in like 2 weeks because if they don't have it, they'll be evicted. So Gina Rodriguez's character, Melanie, she comes up with a scheme because she's like, well, I know a lot of old people through my job. This old lady has a bunch of antiques. Why don't we steal them and sell them at like the swap meet?
Yeah.
So they go do that, which is a very funny scene. Then they also go to an old man's house who she knows.
It's not even, she doesn't even suggest stealing. Like, they'll offer, I'll just say I like stuff and they'll give it to me, and then we can rent a booth at a flea market.
Yes, which I thought was great. Then there's another scene where they go to another old person's house and they start stealing stuff, and while they're there, the old man dies. But things culminate when old Dolio has been paid to take like these parenting classes because some woman, like it's been court ordered. So she pays old Dolio like $20 to sit in these classes to get like proof of attendance. So while old Dolio is there, while she's gone for the day, the mom and dad and Melanie are hanging out at the office space, and they propose like a threesome with her. And Melanie's not into it. So as she's kind of like storming out, old Dolio walks in, and she can sense that there's something wrong. She obviously has not had a normal life and doesn't really understand like intimacy and sex. So I don't think she understood that that's what was happening. But the mom,
Debra
Winger, her character, calls Melanie hun, and old Dolio is like, she snaps. Like, you don't call me that. You don't even you're like basically like you're not a real mom. Like, you don't show any affection. So she says, I have the check. It came. If you can have my portion, like you can have all of the money if you just call me hun. And the mom can't do it.
She goes off on a tirade about how she belittles her.
She goes off. The mom goes off on poor.
You wanted us to be fake people.
Yeah. Very interesting. So Melanie says, like, give me the money, I'll call you hun, let's go. It's also made clear during their interactions that Melanie is attracted to old Dolio. And I don't know that she's a lesbian per se, but it seems like she's
attracted to her, yeah. And then old Dolio is also attracted to her.
Yes, but I don't think she understands.
She doesn't understand, she tells Melanie, you need to wear more clothes.
Yeah, she's like, because Melanie, old Dolio dresses like full length, like Avril Lavigne circa 2003, and then Melanie is wears like form-fitting clothes and is beautiful. But Melanie brings old Dolio back to her place and is kind of trying to be intimate with her, like emotionally, not physically. And old Dolio's uncomfortable, so then she says, "Hey, why don't we do this? If you owe me this money because I said I'd call you hun, but let's make a list of all the things you want." Because old Dolio learned a lot of stuff in the parenting class, so she wants to kind of experience these things. So they start doing these things, one of which is like there's like a technique where like the baby's supposed to
the breast crawl,
like where the mom connects with the baby. So old Dolio wants to crawl out of a dark space and then be greeted by her mother, like symbolically. Well, Melanie says, I know just the place. They go to this old gas station and like go in like this dark bathroom.
Because the light's broken.
In a really cool scene. And during that scene, another sort of motif throughout the film is earthquakes. There are like 5 earthquakes that occur during this film. Well, while Melanie and old Dolio are in this gas station bathroom, an earthquake occurs, and old Dolio is convinced that it's the big one. So she sort of has an epiphany, and then now wants to love life and live.
But while it's happening during the panic, she says some demeaning things to Melanie.
But while it's happening, yeah, she sort of disparages Melanie and says that I was just using you. Melanie's upset. She's like ready to just leave and forget the whole thing. But old Dolio like basically begs her, like, don't leave me. So they're back at Melanie's place, and mom and dad show up knocking on the door, but they refuse to open. So the parents leave. They open the door to see if they're gone, and there are bags of gifts, 17 gifts. Because we find out that old Dolio never had a birthday, Christmas, her parents never bought her anything. So now they've bought her a gift for every year, like up to 18. But the 18th year birthday gift is like a note saying, meet us for dinner. So she gets dolled up with Melanie, they go, and the parents like are very sweet to her, very loving, saying how proud they are of her and how much they love that she's their daughter. So they come, Melanie and old Dolio kind of don't think, like they think her parents are scamming them. So they invite them back, but they hide the money, the $1,500, in a place that old Dolio knows her parents would
look.
Because they like to rummage through people's shit. So they come over, they don't steal anything. So that's a sign to old Dolio that like my parents mean what they say, and in the morning I'm gonna go back to them. So they go to sleep that night, and when they wake up, they cleaned Melanie's apartment out. Took everything, the dishes, the plates, the toilet paper, everything, couch, TV, but they left the gifts, which is important.
But old Dolio tells them, like Debra Winger, she's tucking her in on the floor. Gina Rodriguez says, she's like, well, what are you can have the money. And she goes, no, we have a plan.
That's right.
That's the plan.
So
to get the rent money.
So they don't have any money. So the final scene of the film is old Dolio and Melanie go to like a Burlington coat factory to return all of the gifts that the parents bought them. And the total is $500, which is her share of the $1,500.
Because that's how they operated.
They would split everything equally. So in their minds, they did their job, which was steal all Melanie's shit, and then they gave old Dolio her share. But when they get the money back, old Dolio and Melanie have like a very loving kiss at like the cash register at the end.
Well, Mr. Lonely plays.
So I thought this movie was very interesting. It's very quirky, but I thought it was well thought out, and I think Gina Rodriguez is just so great. And I know she's Jane the Virgin, and so many people have recommended that show to me. I've never watched it.
She's also a voice in Big Mouth.
Yes.
She's been in a bunch of stuff. She's in Deepwater Horizon with Mark Wahlberg.
But after seeing this, I would start Jane the Virgin. That's how much I liked her.
Oh, yeah. I thought everything was... it transcends quirk, which...
Yes, it's better than just being weird.
Everything is... It's like a beautiful puzzle where all of these very strange, seemingly jagged pieces really fit together beautifully. And even since the day or so when we watched it, I think it still resonates. I really enjoyed it.
The title Kajillionaire refers to... The dad is played by...
Richard Jenkins.
Who I will be watching in a movie called...
The Last Shift, shortly.
Shift.
But you've seen him in a ton of stuff.
Okay.
I mean, you don't recognize him?
No. It's okay.
He's in a ton of stuff. He's an Oscar nominee. I always think of him... He's in that movie, Say It Isn't So, with Heather Graham and Chris Klein, where they're maybe brother and sister having sex, and Sally Field is the white trash mom. Anyway, the dad, while the three of them, mom, dad, old Dolio, are walking one day, he kind of explains to her like the problem with society, because they obviously live going against the grain. The problem with society is everyone wants to be a Kajillionaire. And clearly they don't seem like money hungry. They're just trying to survive under the radar and off the grid. Yeah, they don't want to work.
Yeah,
I thought of several times watching this was that film Running on Empty. I think that's Sidney Lumet, 1988. Christine Lahti, River Phoenix, is only Oscar nod, where they're like a family of criminals that have been on the lam, and he's kind of grown up thinking that's normal, how they live their life. but wanted to come out of that.
The masseuse is played by
Davine Joy
who
Randolph.
I know from Dolomite is my name.
Yeah, she plays Lady Reed in Dolomite.
Who's like, that's an excellent movie if you haven't seen it.
Yes.
But she has 2 scenes which are
good.
both really good, and
Yeah.
she pretty much, it's all just in her, like, she doesn't have a lot of speaking lines, it's just her demeanor. The first scene is her attempting to massage old Dolio. And she doesn't want any pressure on her, so she keeps saying, like, do you want more pressure, less, less, up to, I'm not even touching this bitch. But just her facial expressions, and she has such, like, a calming demeanor. And then she's also the server at the restaurant that the 4 of them have dinner at. And she also looks at them like, hi. Like, that's all she does. She just walks by slowly. I thought that was really funny. Probably the funniest thing to me was the landlord, or the man who runs Bubbles Inc. So like the
Stovik.
landlord. Okay, 2 things. The way, so they show the address of this building, so of course I looked it up because I'd be the person to call phone numbers in movies too. But I look up the address and it's a real building, like it's the actual building in LA, like near downtown. But the family, like they try to sneak by the landlord, so there's a part of the fence that's lower, so they walk kind of like leaned backwards. I thought that was very funny. But even more funny is the landlord has some kind of condition. He explains he has a condition where he can't help but cry, or like he can't hide his emotions. So he's trying to be tough, like, you need me my money, or you need to give me my money. Like, the dad asked for installments, and he's like, that's what rent is. Like, you pay me monthly in installments. But he's crying when he's saying it, and that took me out. I thought that was so funny.
I think so, a theme that it seems to be about the emptiness of gestures and ceremony, and like Debra Winger's tirade at Evan Rachel Wood towards the end was kind of a key to interpreting why they are the way they are.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, which makes it more meaningful that Evan Rachel Wood is that these parenting things, learning about attachment styles of children, and her inability to develop any kind of intimacy or lovingness. But Debra Winger saying they want to be, that you want us to be fake people, you want to dance around and do all this fake stuff, coincides with that kiss at an inopportune moment between the 2 of them at the end. It is all about just being authentic in the moment.
Yeah, finding your own, an organic. Like,
because one of my favorite scenes is, it's the second home they go to, and it's the man that's dying. And Gina Rodriguez, he's like talking from his bedroom and telling them to just act like you're having a normal day at home. And then they're playing roles.
like a real family.
Like a real family would, but clearly. And they're using it as a way to talk, because Gina Rodriguez asks Mom, Debra Winger, how her day was. And Debra Winger's like, oh, it feels so nice to be asked that. Like they get
but then she says, do you really care?
Right.
So yeah, that was interesting.
It's interesting that the meta levels of playing with being real and being human, and how good it feels to even just be faking it. Because meanwhile, the old man is dying, and to him, he's like, please play the piano, please clatter dishes around, because those are the noises I want to die to. So it again, like a puzzle piece that fits together, they're complementing one another.
Yeah.
And also Gina Rodriguez's character, we've learned very little about her, other than that the conversations she has with her mother are...
She has the opposite relationship with her mother, who's constantly kind of giving her things, but is not present.
That she doesn't need, and her thought process about her daughter is in relation to objects as well. And just the interesting nature of how they fit together, I think, is...
There's a funny line during the first house they go to with the lady with the antiques. Because Gina Rodriguez's character, Melanie, tells the old lady, like, oh, this is my family. But, like, and the woman's confused because they start speaking in a British accent.
When they learn that she likes British things, yeah.
So then the old lady's like, but they're white and speaking with a British accent, and you're...
She goes, you're dark. And she goes,
dark.
There's dark people everywhere.
Yeah. She's like, I know, but, like, whatever. And then they pretend that so then the mom Debra Winger's character tries to explain like, oh, well, she's adopted. And then she says, we were given one and then we chose one.
And then Evan Rachel Wood, because Evan Rachel Wood is very jealous of her at first. They have this love-hate relationship.
There's a really sweet scene where they're like at a diner and Melanie breaks like a nail. Mm-hmm. And it's the first time we realize like that old Dolio is like, has feelings for Melanie. Because she removes her nails. Which I was confused because she looked like she had acrylics, but then she was peeling them off like Lee press-on nails. So I don't know what they were, a gel manicure, but old Dolio very like lovingly peels them off. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, well, you're gonna need like acetone. And then Debra Winger's character, because this bitch collects everything, in her bag has like acetone wipes. But that was a really sweet scene because I think that's when Melanie first realized like that maybe she likes her. So that was sweet. Mm-hmm.
And then in that other scene where they're play acting, Melanie asserts herself as the daughter in this situation, and she refers to, because this old man's listening from the other room, and I think she assigns Evan Rachel Wood the role of like the refrigerator.
Oh, the refrigerator repairman. Oh, because we didn't mention old Dolio, Evan Rachel Wood, speaks with a very low voice.
Yeah,
she talks very deeply, like that lady from that documentary.
Oh, about the blood. What's her name? That Jennifer Lawrence is gonna play.
The one who's now claiming she's like mentally unstable.
Well,
but I mean, yeah.
That's not surprising. What was that documentary called? Blood.
Anyway, when there's a point where old Dolio is trying to explain to Melanie, like, those are my parents. Like, I need to go back. And then Melanie says, in what sense? Like, in what sense are they your parents? I thought that was, like, a very, very good line. Because that pretty much explains, like, the crux of her issue. Like, you're attached to these people who are not giving you what you need when your entire existence is, like, trying to find what you need.
The soundtrack. So I was a little nervous the first opening scene where Evan Rachel Wood does that commando style stuff to get into the post office. I was like, oh, this is gonna be probably like too quirky to appreciate.
I was alarmed. So the opening scene when they first go into the post office, old Dolio does this thing where because they go like, okay, now go, and then she like does like this jump 3 times, hopscotch, dip, push up, burpee.
Not on camera.
So she's not on camera, but it doesn't really make sense. And then she does, I was worried too.
And the soundtrack, which I came to really enjoy, the rhythm of it, because this constant refrain always plays, that ends up feeling kind of magical. But because Miranda July, as much as I've actually liked all 3 of her films now, is a weirdo. So I was a little worried, but I don't know, I really...
Well, speaking of weird, the bathroom scene where they go towards the end at the gas station, in the dark, the vision on screen turns into like the night sky, and we see the stars while they're talking. I really liked that. Because it kind of took me away. I mean, that was the purpose, obviously.
Right.
My last note is... Gina Rodriguez obviously is attracted to old Dolio. Melanie's attracted to old Dolio. But I kept thinking, like, when is she going to take a bath?
Oh, yeah.
When is she going to brush her teeth? Because I'm like, can't have sex if you're not fresh. I don't know. Well, some people don't mind. What would you give this movie?
Oh, and one last shout out. Sebastian Winterø was the DP who shot the Sia music video for Chandelier.
Okay.
And I don't know, I like the look. I love that they went to Ladera Heights. We used to live right by there. And they actually shot there.
And it was actually in Ladera Heights,
I don't know. It's kind of also a little love letter to parts of LA we don't see a lot. Well, I would give this one 4 out of 5.
I would give it 4 out of 5 as well. All right, bye.
Bye.